I know it's been a long time, folks, but we are now finally back here in the Sports Talk Nation. So apologies, obviously, because look, I want to get as much content out there as possible. Hard to do when you have a work schedule as well, but we are back here to talk a little bit about some baseball. And boy, a lot going on right now. We got, of course, this video, as you see by the title, we're going to talk about the Jacob deGrom injury, what the Mets should do, whether they should rest him or not. Of course, we have the Mets playing good baseball. You have the Yankees starting to play a little bit better baseball, although a lot of people calling for Aaron Boone's head over the last few weeks, considering that team has lost 13 out of 18. And, of course, all the stuff involving the spider tack. That's been a big controversy in baseball as well. So much going on. Start off with Jacob deGrom, as we all saw in horror, abject horror for that matter, on Wednesday night, as deGrom left the ball game after 3 perfect innings against the Chicago Cubs. He had struck out 8 of 9 batters, leaves the ball game with a sore shoulder. This just a few days after he left the ball game against the San Diego Padres after 6 very well pitched innings against them. With concerns about his elbow. When you hear about these kind of injuries, and as has been discussed ad nauseum over the last couple of days, when you hear about shoulder injuries and you hear about elbow injuries, you think about the worst possible thing that could possibly happen, especially with regards to easily the best pitcher in baseball. You hate to see something happen to Jacob deGrom, for that matter. And the Mets, if this team is going to accomplish what they would like to right now, and that's obviously to win this division, get to the playoffs and make some noise, serious noise in October, the health of Jacob deGrom is going to be paramount to the Mets' success. And that's why I don't think the Mets should rush him back too soon. And I know that Luis Rojas said that the shoulder came back clean. They checked with 2 doctors who examined deGrom's shoulder, showed no structural damage, nothing out of the ordinary. He is good to go. But I think the Mets should take caution to the wind here. Skip him a start. I know he is scheduled to pitch on Monday against the Atlanta Braves, and this is a crucial stretch the Mets are in right now, which we'll get into more in detail in a second here, with all these games in the division, including 3 doubleheaders against the Braves, Phillies, and Nationals. But you have to take a long-term view for this. This is a Mets team that right now was 9 games over 500. They have a 4 or 5 game lead in first place. You want to make sure you have your ace, your best pitcher, ready to rock and roll, not just now as you head towards the All-Star break, but of course, post-All-Star break, August, September, and of course October. You want to make sure he is healthy for those most important games towards the end of the season. I'm not saying shut him down for several weeks. I'm just saying skip him a start and make sure everything is good to go. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Of course, the Mets are going to take caution. They're saying all the right things day to day right now, and we'll see what happens. As I said mentioned a moment ago, he is scheduled to pitch on Monday against Atlanta. We'll see if he does make that start. If he does, hopefully things go well. Will be one of those doubleheader games that he will pitch in, or at least schedule to pitch in, and we shall wait and see. As nervous as we all are, for that matter, because let's be honest, as well as this Met rotation is pitched, and the Mets have gotten good performances out of Taijuan Walker. They've gotten great performances out of Marcus Stroman, even in the game they lost last night, 2-0. Stroman pitched well, giving up only the 2 runs. And even decent performances every so often from Peterson and Lucchesi. They would love to have a full assortment of healthy pitchers. They would like to have Carlos Carrasco back. I don't know when that's going to happen. They would like to have Noah Syndergaard back. And if you're listening to the Mets game broadcast the last couple of days, it doesn't sound like it could happen until September. So you want to make sure, with those 2 guys sidelined for a long time, you want to make sure everything's good to go with your ace in Jacob deGrom, because he is the best pitcher in baseball right now. He is must-see TV whenever he is on the mound. 0.54 ERA, one of the best whips in baseball, a fastball velocity of about 99.2 miles an hour. of all of his pitches. I heard this stat the other day: 120 pitches of that he has thrown this year that have been over 100 miles an hour. And I know some fans have said maybe he should dial it back a little bit. Maybe he should, you know, try not to throw as hard. I heard that someone say that on the radio. You can't tell an athlete like this to go halfway, or at least try to pull back a little bit. He knows his own body better than anybody, obviously. So he's got to figure out himself what he can and cannot do on the mound, especially in light of what has happened here over the last few starts that he has made, where he's had some nagging injuries. So that's why we are all concerned right now with what's going on with him, and that's what I'm saying. The Mets have to take a long-term view of this and of his situation moving forward before putting him on the mound again, potentially next week. That said, the Mets did take care of business, and I think they really sent a big statement this week, the last couple of weeks, after they took care of San Diego and the Cubs. They won 3 out of 4 against the Cubs this week. They took 2 out of 3 against the Padres at home last weekend. They split a 4-game series in San Diego the weekend before that. Won the season series against San Diego. Take that for what it is. But that was very, very important because I kept seeing polls online, top 10 teams in baseball, and the Mets are not on any of those top 10 lists. I don't know how that's possible. This team has played well. I understand that they don't hit very well. I understand they don't hit consistently for a high average. But when they do hit, they make those hits count. And they drive guys in, and they hit a lot of home runs. And just for example, over the last 7 games, even though their team batting average was at 196, the Mets still hit 6 home runs, drove in 24 runs in the last 7 games. They make them count, and that's what matters. And of course, when you have good pitching, as the Mets have, you can make those runs stand up. So that's why the Mets find themselves in a good position. Also, going back to the pitching, think about this. Against the Padres and the Cubs, 2 of the better teams in the league, 2 teams that were in first place or very close to first place in their divisions, the Mets held those 2 teams to an team ERA of 2.71 in the last 7 games. That's impressive. That's very impressive. A great job by this Mets pitching staff. So I don't know what a lot of people are looking for as far when they make these top 10 lists, but the Mets should be in the top 10 of teams in baseball so far this year because they have played extremely well, and they're entertaining to watch. Described in other videos, they have so many guys that come in, guys you sometimes just come off the street, guys you never heard of, and they contribute in a big way. Same names as we've talked about before. Jonathan Villar, who has now been a pretty good leadoff hitter for the Mets over the last few days. Kevin Pillar. Guys like Jose Peraza, Thomas Nido. Billy McKinney, who has started to slump a little bit, but he was hitting well for a while. They're getting solid efforts from a lot of different avenues. Even Scott Reed Foley, who came in and pitched well in the stead of Jacob deGrom, helped the Mets get that win against Chicago after he had left the ball game. So they just find ways to win, and that if you are going to compete, if you're going to be a team that's going to compete for a postseason spot, you want to show that you can find ways to win games when it looks like everything is falling apart. And that's how the Mets have been winning games so far. Crucial stretch, though, as I said, coming up. A lot of games in the division, a lot of doubleheaders, three doubleheaders here in the upcoming against the Nationals starting this weekend, doubleheader on Saturday. The Braves next week with a doubleheader on Monday, and then next weekend against Philadelphia with a doubleheader, I believe, on Friday. So they got a lot of games in the division to close out the month of June here in 2021, and they're going to be very important. I know the division, you look at it on paper, doesn't look that great when you have only one team over 500, and the Phillies are the next closest team. They're only at 500, but make no mistake, we all knew coming into the season that this was going to be a tough division. Nobody's really out of it, and if you are the Mets, you have a chance to try to pad your lead here in June. And it is June, it's early, but these are very big games and important games for the New York Mets. Quickly here, going over to the Yankees, and as I mentioned, before they swept the Toronto Blue Jays, a lot of talk, and I wanted to do a separate video on this, but I just didn't have the chance to do it because a lot of people were talking about Aaron Boone's job security and whether Is it time to move on? Is it time to move on from him? Is it time to move on from Brian Cashman, who's been there for seemingly forever? Because this team has been playing inconsistent baseball. They don't hit well. They don't hit in the clutch. They don't move guys over, and they are a home run or nothing team. And not to mention their pitching has been brutal this year. Aside from Garrett Cole, who has had to deal with his own demons with the spider tech situation, outside of him, they don't pitch well at all, and had lost 13 out of 18 before they swept the Toronto Blue Jays this week, and they got back to kind of who they are. They hit a lot of home runs, 6 home runs. Gary Sanchez had a game-winning home run on Wednesday. The question is going to be now, the Yankees do play the Oakland A's, and while I know the Yankees have had a history of owning the A's, especially at Yankee Stadium, A's have been playing good baseball. They're in first place in the West. It's a big series, and the Yankees are sending Jameson Taillon, Domingo Germán, and Jordan Montgomery at them in a row here. None of those guys have pitched all that well. Maybe Montgomery's pitched the best out of the three. Taillon has been bad for the Yankees. It's a big series for them, and they're going to have a full house in Yankee Stadium, apparently, with the COVID restrictions being lifted. This is a big series, and we'll certainly see whether the Yankee, depending on how this goes, we'll see how the Yankee fan feels. If the Yankees finally win the series, I think the Yankee fan is going to calm down a little bit. If they don't, maybe we'll start to hear the chorus of boos and calls for certain people's heads, for that matter, to roll, as we seem to always hear around, for that matter, from Yankee fans. But, again, Yankees haven't had a managerial change in season since 1991. I doubt that's going to change anytime soon. So, folks, that's where we are locally in the baseball realm. I do want to discuss this. I'm going to do this, and that's this sticky stuff where Major League Baseball is instituting these 10-game suspensions for pitchers who are caught with this foreign substance on their hands, this what they call it spider tack. I want to discuss that, but I'm going to do that on a separate video. So you got to wait for that. That's why you got to subscribe. So we're going to do it on a separate video. We're going to have a guest on to talk about that. Also, the Brooklyn Nets. I know we don't do a lot of basketball, but man, the Brooklyn Nets have been taken to the brink. They spent all that money, all that effort to go out there and bring in all these big all-stars, and man, they are just full. They are on the precipice of being eliminated by the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs. I'm going to try to get a guest for that as well after Game 7. So that's why I'm asking you, like and subscribe here to the Sports Talk Nation. We'll talk to you next time.